was also announced though this week that 3 6 Mafia and Bone Thugs and Harmony are finally going to do their verses. I remember.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
We're not gonna talk about Yay and Beans, or are we doing that later?
I mean, I don't want to go back to back to back. Yay, man. We can kind of,
You
give
know.
Yay a rest for a second. We're gonna talk about that
Right. He has been everywhere. This motherfucker busy. Go ahead.
So yeah, it was announced via Verzuz. It said it's that time. Bone Thugs and Harmony versus 3 6 Mafia. Live from Los Angeles, Thursday, December 2nd. Y'all ready? More details coming soon. And then, 3 6 Mafia commented under there, tear the club up. Man, all right, look.
Go ahead, Mike.
Nah, man, I don't want to take up all the time. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No.
I was just gonna
No, I
talk about. I was just gonna talk
already talked to
about
you
when it
about
initially happened.
Right. Go ahead. I already know.
Yeah.
Run it. Go ahead.
So a year and a half ago was that I think we were online or whatnot, and DJ Paul and Crazy Bone were gonna do the verses on their own because at this point verses didn't have any real big platforms. Everybody was just on Instagram Live, just doing what they do, and so being the independent mind that they are, or that he is, excuse me, DJ Paul was like, well, shit, we can go ahead and just do this on our own. Because from what I understand, him and Crazy Bone been working on music. They're actually about to put out a project together. And so he was like, yeah, Bone Thugs and Harmony versus 3 6 Mafia. And this is why we were still on quarantine. They were at the crib. DJ Paul had all his DJ equipment set up. And Crazy Bone was, I guess at his crib about to do the same thing. And then Crazy Bone got a call from Swiss Beats, and the whole thing got canceled. And, Swiss Beats told Crazy that, you need to do it the right, or they were going to do it the right way. And so a year and a half later, here we are. And
Mike,
but see, this is what I said a year ago. I told Coop, I said, yeah, this shit's not going to happen. Because as soon as it got delayed, they didn't even really make any formal announcement. They said, we're going to circle back to this or whatever they said. I was like, man, this ain't going to happen.
Mike, I vividly remember you were like, the right way. You were like, what is the right way? What's the right way? What do you mean we're going to do this the right way? It took them a year and a half to figure out a way to do this the right way.
You know what the right way is? 3 6, y'all need to be playing some of the records that are on major labels, not all your independent stuff that you own.
Is that what that means, Mike?
Yeah, that's what that means. This is a publishing grab. This is what this whole versus is anyway. Clearly.
That is very problematic.
So that's the only thing I could.
So you're telling me the 18-month or the year or so. I don't know if it's been a full 18 months. It seems like it's been more like 15 months. But you're telling me this like over a year delay. It's probably been like behind the scenes attorneys, making sure paperwork and publishing rights because Bones had some publishing issues.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too, which is interesting, is the fact that, and I peeped this when it was happening. Only Crazy Bone was really getting behind this. Like Lazy and none of the Bone members who are very active on social media, they didn't post anything about it. They're like, we didn't sanction this. I think here with the Versus platform or with Trilla involved or whoever else is involved, because they got all kind of dealings going on, they're able to cut somebody a check or cut the artist a check for doing this, but the artists were about to go and do it for free. But see, with DJ Paul and Juicy J, the way they own their publishing, it wouldn't have been for free for them. They would have been actually giving light to a lot of the shit that they own, and they would have been capitalizing on this. So that's why Swiss Beats reached out to Crazy Bone, probably. And again, I'm just speculating. And look, you want to get paid for this, or you want to do this for free?
Mike, this is NBA Jam, and you are on fire.
I'm just saying, man. We got to keep it all the way real. I'm looking forward to it, even though, and I want to get your perspective on it too. I don't think this is a good matchup for Bone. It sounds good on paper because these two groups have been associated with each other in the '90s and during the height of Bone Thugs and Harmony. But when you look at the longevity and the way that 3 6 Mafia is actually structured, and how they've been able to extend as a posse, and it gets convoluted with what's actually a 3 6 record and what's not. Like if you just let them play everything they're involved in, man, this really ain't fair.
We'll wrap that up.
Yeah.
So Mike, you posed my the biggest question that I had on the 3-6 side is, well, what the hell you gonna play? What are we calling 3-6 stuff? Because if everything's up for game, especially Project Pat shit, Mike, you can go ahead and wrap this up.
Well, I mean, they can even play Chicken Head because DJ Paul and Juicy J got the last verse on that.
Mike, that's what I'm saying. If that stuff goes into play, oh yeah, it's gonna be tough for Bone. But on Bone's side, and here's their problem, Mike. When I was listening to Bone stuff, I realized something. Like Bone are actually really great rappers, Mike.
They can rap, yeah.
They're great. Their production isn't always great.
Exactly.
This is the wrong camp to go up against.
It
if
is.
Your production isn't hard, Mike. This is the wrong camp to go up against if your production isn't hard.
This is the thing, man, and I want to give some context to this too, because again, I don't want to sound like I'm shitting on Bone or anything, because
I want to get into.
I was a hardcore Bone Thugs and Harmony fan when East 99 came out, and even Creeping on the Come Up, because Thuggish Ruggish Bone was everywhere. For the Love of Money was everything. I knew all the words to the songs on East 99. Like, I taped the video like on VHS back in the day when I was in like middle school or elementary school or whatever, and I would rewind they stuff just so I could learn all the words. I would get soundtracks just because Bone had one song on there. Like, I would get the Set It Off soundtrack. I would get like,
yeah, for Days of Our Lives.
Yeah, I would get the Great White Hype for Shoot 'Em Up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would have this stuff on repeat. Everyday Thing was my favorite song. Like,
that's my favorite. Like, I love Everyday Thing.
And if it wasn't for How High being on the show, that would have been my favorite song on there. But with that being said, though, I got into 3-6. Me and my homeboy Melvin. Shout out to Melvin, because we were really hardcore Bone fans, and I think that the transition to being a 3-6 Mafia fan was just it was just an easy transition, right? So in 97, when Bone kind of lost his edge a little bit, like what you were saying in a previous show when we were talking about Crossroads, because their whole musical approach changed after the Crossroads remix.
It did.
And so around 97, we were hearing about this group from Corey Jackson, I think. And he was talking about this group that was dissing Bone. And so we listened to it for the Bone diss at first, and then started getting pulled in by, the style that Lord Infamous and Coopster were rapping with, because they kind of had like a sped up flow. But it's 6 of these guys. And then you got Gangsta Boo, who pulls you in her way too. And then next thing you know, I become a 3-6 fan. And then you're following everything that they're doing. And this is just the 90s. These guys kept going. They kept innovating their style. They got the Prophet Posse stuff, the Hypnotized Camp Posse stuff. And at that time, man, I think Bone, they were just, they were kind of a little flat. You know what I'm saying? And I think the Resurrection album that Bone put out in, 2000? It's a pretty good album. But it didn't have the hits. And if we're talking about the hits here, and I start thinking to myself, 2 real strong things that Bone has. Well, I would say 3. They got Notorious Thugs. They got one of the final Tupac collaborations, which I think is a strong song, but I think kind of gets overlooked because of how strong Notorious Thugs is and Biggie's performance on there. And they got the Mariah Carey breakdown. Those are 3 really good ones that Bone has.
So Mike, you highlighted 3. I think you're missing 2 more.
Okay, I'm talking about outside of their individual catalogs, because I feel like hit-wise, Bone doesn't have a lot outside of Creeping on the Come Up in East 1999.
Well, Mike, as a group, those are the 3, but Crazy has I Don't Give a Fuck with Lil Jon, and he has Riding Dirty with Chameleon there.
Good ones. I remember Riding Dirty, but I totally forgot about I Don't Give a Fuck. That's a good one. That is a good one.
And all of those are notable enough to go in a versus. And all of those enough beat-wise to go on a versus, which is going to be their biggest struggle. So I'm going to tell you, first of all, Mike, they're kind of going to have to accept some things in order to do this versus. It's like, in order to do this versus, they have to realize Crazy Bone's going to be at the front man.
Okay, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, he's kind of the initiator of this versus in the first place. Although I've always felt like, for some reason, that Lazy Bone is the leader of the group, if there is a leader.
I've always felt like Lazy Bone was a better rapper.
Really?
Like, bar for bar than Crazy. It's just Crazy has the voice and the flow.
He does.
He has the voice and the flow. He's not necessarily bar for bar better than Lazy or Busy to me.
Busy has the content. I got to keep it real.
Content. So, Mike, that was my biggest question too, as well as Busy coming.
They said, well, DJ Paul said Busy's going to be there.
Okay, so
that's what he said.
Okay, so that was one of my questions. And also too, Mike, and like you said, they're gonna have to lean on some of like those outside stuff that they did. Because here's one thing that I noticed about Bone. It's like, Mike, they're one of those groups that when they hit their mark on a record, they really hit their mark.
Real shit.
Record. So those records that we're talking about, like Everyday Thing, oh no, that hits the mark. East 1999, oh no, that hits the mark. Thuggish Ruggish Bone, For the Love of Money, First of the Month, Mo Murder. You know what I'm saying? Oh, no. When they hit it, they hit it. But it's like when they don't hit it, it's like,
No, you're right.
And what you'll find after, like, somewhere on the Art of War, it's just like they stop hitting it, really.
Well, see, I wanted to get to that comment because KCon 515 says Art of War 2, dude. Listen, I bought Art of War.
Is he saying that, like, in a way, like saying that project was dope?
I guess so. Because as a project, yes. Because again, the thing with Bone, if we talking about a versus and we talking about the hits, I mean, I don't think songs like Land of the Heartless, and I know that's on East 1999, I don't think songs like that are going to be played. I think the hit that's on Art of War is Teach the World, right? Because I don't see Look Into My Eyes being played at a versus. And if you play Look Into My Eyes against 3-6, you're going to lose, man.
Well, see, okay, so this is what I mean. Okay, so Mike, look at it like this. So where would you rank those soundtrack songs that we talked about right quick, those 3 soundtrack songs, Days of Our Lives, Shoot 'Em Up, and Everyday Thing? Where would you rank those in Bone's catalog?
They're towards the top. Those are even if I listen to Days of Our Lives now, like, that's a really dope record. And out of the 3, that's third for me.
Mike, I agree. Out of those 3, that's third for me too. I think those are 3 of their 10 best records, and they're on none of their albums.
They got to use those. They got to stretch. But see, I think the problem with Bone, and you kind of hit on a little bit of this when we were talking about Crazy Bone being highlighted. Mm-hmm. I don't understand how this is going to work for Bone when it's 4 members, and the way they do their songs is slightly different than 3-6, right? 3-6 can go in there and, you know, unfortunately, and rest in peace, Lord Infamous and Coopster, they got 2 members that have passed away. So, okay, Lord Infamous is really the reason why I started listening to 3-6, and I think he was an incredible lyricist being around the people that he was around and all that. But
I feel that way about 3-6, Mike.
Huh?
Most people feel that way about 3-6. Lord Infamous is what
he's something else. Yeah. And so with all that being said though, they were able to chop up their verses through, 8 bar type of, cadences, right? So it's like first verse might be Juicy and Gangsta Boo, or second verse might be DJ Paul. So it's easier to highlight 2 people in the group just off of a 16 bar or first minute or however versus does their format. With Bone, it's going to be like, we're just going to play one person's verse. That's pretty much how it's going to be, unless you're talking about Crossroads. And so my question is, whose verse is Bone going to play on each of these songs? And how is that going to work?
So, Mike, can I tell you something? One of the reasons that I didn't care for 3-6 as much when I was younger wasn't because I didn't think their music was dope. It's because I couldn't figure out who the fuck was who, because so many people would come on after like 4 or 8 bars and start rapping. It would happen so fast to be like, okay, who's that? Okay, who's that? Who's that? Is that Gangsta Boo? No, Gangsta Boo gone. That's the chat. It's like, oh, word? When did that happen? You know what I'm saying? And so... But it's funny how time kind of changes things, because I always was more into Bone than 3-6 around that time until Bone started to fade. And then like you, I started to get more into 3-6. My cousin had been listening to 3-6 and like put me on the 3-6. Like we rode around Charlotte to all of that constantly, especially like when Tear the Club Up and all that came out. Like that's when I feel like they really like started like hitting their mark. But Bone does have a problem with the fact that Mike, not only do they have just like one verse shots, but these dudes are rapping a lot for one verse for a long time. Like their verses aren't like little 30-second verses. It's like, no, these dudes be rapping this fast for like a minute 15 seconds, which is amazing when you think about the breath control. It's also potentially troublesome live.
Exactly. So if you play first of the month, right? Let's just say Bone plays first of the month in the verses. Which verse are they going to play? You know what I mean? Because you only get to play. I don't know what the rules are, if they're going to extend the rules for this group, but you only get to play like a minute and a half, right, or something like that. So are we going to just play, Crazy's verse that starts it off? Are we going to go with Busy? Are we going to play Wish's verse? Or are we going to play Lazy's verse? They're going to have to choose, and I think ultimately that's going to end up hurting Bone in playing some of their biggest records, because the way they structured their songs, a lot of their songs got stronger as the verses went on. Like For the Love of Money, you don't want to play the beginning of that. You want to play Easy On.
Right. So I'll tell you what, that's one of those intangible things where the group's ego is going to come into play in terms of being fair about who gets the nod. Because I tell you on first of the month, even though Crazy starts it off, I think Busy's verse is the verse people remember the most, and I think Lazy's verse is the strongest.
You know what? It's interesting you say that. I think that Wish's verse is probably the most memorable, but I see what you're saying there. And maybe I'm thinking about when it came out, but yeah, I think Lazy has the strongest there. When they play Notorious Thugs, what are they gonna do? Like, you gonna play Biggie's whole verse?
No, so you can't do that. You got to play one of those verses.
They don't have the time to do that.
Hold on. Isn't that Lazy at the end of Notorious Thugs too? He be killing shit, Mike. That's the best verse on there too.
I liked his verse on there.
I'm saying some ego gonna have to come into play about some of this, because Mike, I'm gonna tell you what I really, really hear. If you're really going to go with the strongest verses, what you're going to find is that if you're going with the hits and you're going with the verses, it's going to be more Crazy and Lazy in the front with a little bit of Busy.
If we're going to go with the strongest verses, though, Coop, Wish is not going to get any time, respectfully. And I don't think that's fair either. They're going to have to spread it around.
Hey, so Mike, I'm one of those things. It's like, are you playing for notoriety and money? Or are you playing to win? Because the notoriety and the money gonna come. At that point, I'm playing to win. So it's like I want to win more than I want to like be like. I told you, Mike. Like I told you, ain't enough dudes cool with being Scottie Pippen. Too many people don't want to sit up there and be like, no, I'm gonna support your business and your organization and like be the sidekick to it and help you build it and help it grow. Too many people just don't think that way. That's why I said the intangible and the ego part of this is really what's about to come into play. Because if you're gonna be honest with yourself, Mike, it's like it's going to be a lot of Lazy and a lot of Crazy if you want to win. Do you want to win?
I think Wish has always been good about that. Like, and I say this respectfully. I think Wish is kind of like, let's just say like and I know it's going to sound bad, for people out there, like a Michelle or Jackie Jackson, where it's like they always been cool with the fact that, no, that's the one. Like, Wish has always given Crazy his props. He's like, yo, Crazy's that dude. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, while they're on that stage together, it would look shitty if he didn't get any verses. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he is a part of the group, and he has to get some sort of shine. I think You God has struggled with that to a degree, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've heard some of the things You God has said, but dude, you're in an amazing group. You're a really dope rapper that is in the most lyrical group ever.
Mike, and that's what I mean is like, so it's not that Wish isn't a dope rapper, is that we really, as a hip hop culture, really haven't categorized Busy, Crazy, and Lazy as the great MCs that they truly are. You feel what I'm saying?
K-Con says Wish can do his verse on Breakdown, and I agree with that. So
maybe. Oh, that'd be great.
The Lox did a really good job of showcasing Sheik too, because Sheik is a very understated member of the Lox.
He can rhyme his ass off though.
Yeah, he can. Yeah, but I mean, again, he suffers similar from what You guys suffers from. You got Jada and Styles over here, and the fact that Jada and Styles do so much work together and they're back and forth he's kind of always,
I think it's just because they're all time great, and you could just
yeah,
rhyme into somebody who's all time great all the time. Yeah, and it's only a 3-man group, and 2 of the 3 guys are all time great, not just great, but all time great. And so
yeah.
he ends up looking good instead of great because Sheik is actually a great MC. It's like, well, I mean, talking about Styles and Kiss. You know what I'm saying?
Will says Wish probably has the most memorable line of Crossroads. I agree with that. I think that
All right, there
oh,
we
I
go.
think with Wish, they gotta play Breakdown with Wish, showcase him on there, and they gotta showcase Wish on Crossroads. I think Crossroads is probably gonna be the last song they play. Um,
His verse on East 1999 was pretty strong.
it was,
Yeah,
it was.
yeah.
But everybody is always so strong. Like, you know what I'm saying? That was the thing about Bone. Like, he was in a group with some really strong rappers, man. So even when he's strong, it's like they got strong moments too. But if they do Mo Murder, which I don't know if they will,
No, they need to.
You think they need to? Yeah, I don't know if they will, but I think that they could showcase him on that too.
It's just one of the strongest songs in their catalog. How can they not? Is it not? Am I
Well,
wrong?
that's the other part I struggle with too. It's like I love Bone is one of those groups. I like their B sides more than their singles. So when I start thinking about the hits, I know you did a mock list because we're gonna do a mock at some point of 3-6 and Bone, kind of do like a preview in that way where we go song for song. But after Thuggish Ruggish Bone, after For the Love of Money, after Crossroads, First of the Month, um,
Thug Love.
Thug Love, and you know what I'm saying, Notorious Thugs, and I'm starting to kind of run low on hits. But we just named 5 featured stuff. But if we're talking about Bone Records, and then the 3 soundtrack songs, but see, those aren't hits.
Those aren't hits. Those are those B-sides we love. See, okay, so here's going to be the problem, and this is what I mean production-wise. It's like, oh, well, we love Everyday Thing and like Shoot 'Em Up and even Mo Murder. Like, Mike, how about this? It's like, what happens if this Versus comes on and they play Mo Murder and then 3-6 play Who Run It? Over.
But see, that's the other thing, and that's why I don't think this is a really good. That's why I don't think this is a good matchup for Bone, because if Bone goes to the B-sides, you don't want to see their B-sides, number one. And they got hits on top of hits that could face those B-sides.
Like you said, Bone's B-sides are actually their best stuff, like Buddha Lovers, Butt Smokers Only.
I think they got to do those too. I think they got to do Buddha Lovers and Butt Smokers Only. I was just about to mention those.
Yeah. They got to do those. That's what I'm saying. That's all B-side stuff, Mike, but it's great B-side stuff, but it's like the guys on the other side, Mike.
I don't even think, and I forgot all about this record. I don't even think 3-6 is going to do Late Night Tip or a record like that. Like, I don't think they even have to. And see, the thing about 3-6, and because I was kind of thinking of, if I were choosing 23-6 songs, as groundbreaking as Tear the Club Up is for them, and it is the song that broke them and, brought them national and all that stuff, or at least super regional, whatever you want to call it, I don't even think that's probably one of their biggest hits. That might not even be the song they go last. Like, I think that Stay Fly is bigger than that, quote unquote. You know what I mean?
So, Mike, that's what I'm saying. So, this is what I mean. So, sonically, when you start putting some of 3-6 stuff that they've released as singles up against it, and this is going to be like kind of stadium-ish, it's like, oh, like Stay Fly, Sipping on Some Syrup, Who Run It, Tear the Club Up, the verse from Chicken Head coming through the speakers, Mike, with Juicy J's part. I'm the one supplying the joke. I'm the one supplying.
Or if they just go with some of Juicy J's individual stuff, that could happen. Because even what I was just talking about with Bone, right? Playing an individual's verse with Tear the Club Up, they could go with Juicy in Gangsta Boo's verse and just cut it off at that point, or go into Crunchy or whatever. But that's still showcasing 3 members in like around 1 minute and 15 seconds or whatever.
Mike, they got stuff everywhere. Like Mike, they can play Pop in My Collar.
Yeah.
I love Pop in My Collar.
They got stuff everywhere. And I think what they're going to do, and I'm sure DJ Paul's probably going to direct this, and him and Juicy J are going to get on one accord, which is crazy, to direct this thing musically. They're probably going to infuse a lot of the songs that have used their stuff that people don't even know have used their stuff into the set. So even if it's not a quote unquote 3-6 hit, it's a current hit. And you know what I'm saying? And it's recognizable. And people are like, oh, I didn't know that came from there. This is gonna be bad. This is gonna be
I don't know if it's gonna be bad.
It's gonna be great, but it's gonna be a wash.
Bones gonna have to, put their ego to the side and pick the best stuff to make this more competitive, is what I would say. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be a wash, because like I said, when Bone hits it, no, they hit it. It's just, what are they gonna hit directly up against what 3-6 got? Because also too, 3-6 got so much stuff that they could pull audibles. Like, oh well, if they play that, well, we just gonna play this and just start. They got it like that in terms of like depth of catalog. Yeah. Strength of production sonically, standing the test of time. Singles, it's like you said, Mike. Singles, B-sides, it's like, who run it, Mike?
I think the other part, I mean, they could even do stuff like Ass and Titties if they want to. Like, those are hits that, or obviously Slob on My Knob is going to get on there. And it's just, they got too much recognizable stuff. I don't know if
they have to play those two to even win, Mike.
They don't. They don't.
Even have to get there and get to their raunchy stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're real. Yeah, they don't even got to do.
I think what's going to have to happen, though, I think that the people at Verzuz are going to have to allow Bone more time to, perform this song. They got to get at least 2 verses in. But see, I don't even know if that helps in this format. For them dragging songs out, it might actually hurt. Because and like you said, and this is because of production mostly, and because of approach, 3-6 is able to actually get in and get out real quick, and you get the point. Whereas Bone songs, a lot of the time, they were building. You know what I'm saying? And you're waiting for another person's verse, and you're waiting. And so I don't know if that really helps them in a format like this.
No, that's what I mean. It's funny how the different formats, how time has changed what kind of holds up. Like 3-6's format fits the more modern day times. It's short, it's brief, it's straight to the point, it's in and out, it's variety, it's everything that you want today.
They kind of were the blueprint for what today's format is.
It's crazy. That's what I mean, Mike. It's crazy to say. That's why it's like when we were doing was it earlier this year that we were doing like the top 5 hip hop producers, and I told you like DJ Paul was like number 5. It's like, well, look around.
Yeah, he got a lot of kids out here, man. And Juicy J too, you know what I'm saying? Like that last Juicy J project, The Saga Continues, where he got with what's his name? He got with another producer, but yeah, they were able to kind of recreate the Mafia sound to a certain degree. And it's like these guys are super consistent because they know what they're doing. And yeah, I think that their stuff comes through the speakers, like I was telling you. That shit comes through the speakers like Public Enemy and NWA stuff does. And that's a problem for Bone in just the style of production that they have chosen throughout their careers.
That's what I mean. So this wasn't like a fit.
Yeah. Like you said, man, Crazy Bone on Lil Jon's I Don't Give a Fuck I think that's a great choice. And that's really one of the best matchups that they have. But they just don't have enough of that.
They don't have enough of that.
They don't have enough of that. Like 3-6 got songs like that by the loads.
Mike, they have albums worth of material like that. Yeah. Albums.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, man. I'm looking forward to it. I guess we're going to do a mock versus. But again, I'm struggling with what 3-6 song to put last.
Mike, if Project Pat solo material is like up in the play, this could be a wash, or is going to be a wash. It's going to be a wash if that happens.
Well, I mean, I think they're going to play International Players Anthem because there's a version of them on, with it.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Project Pat's version. Yeah. I was in the group that we're in talking about, like, if somebody had said International Players Anthem with UGK and Outkast is a top 10 hip hop song all time. And I was like, it's a classic, but I'm not sure about that. But I immediately thought about Project Pat song. I was like, yeah, they said top 10 all the time.
It's not. Come on, man. That's not a top 10 for the individuals. Well, it might be for UGK.
Yeah, but I immediately thought about Project Pat's version. I was like, shit, I love Pat's version almost as much as I love that version.
Me too. But there's a version where it's Bun and Pimp C and DJ Paul and Juicy J. So that could be the version that's played. Because again, if we're sitting here talking about two verses or, you know what I'm saying, one verse, they could do that. I mean, they
Yeah,
can. I mean, we ain't even talking about riding spinners and stuff like that in that era.
that's what
Purple
I mean.
Drink.
Like we spitting stuff out.
Yeah. I haven't
Yeah,
even sat here and thought about it. And I ain't
like the
even gonna go with the underground stuff like, grab the gauge or, body parts, one, two. Gangsta Boo was on her Instagram live rapping Lord Infamous's verse from the original Grab the Gauge. And I'm like, man, these guys got so much material. It's crazy. And shout out to her too, man, because she was like 16 years old spitting this stuff, man. Like her verse on Tear the
yeah.
Club Up 97, she had to be like 17 years old,
Mm.
comfortable on the mic. Because when Mystic Styles came out, she was down there 15, 16. And she was like, she became a vet by the second or third album because they had all that underground stuff. And she wasn't even 18 yet. She don't
Their
get the
work,
props she deserves.
you're right, and their work output was crazy around that time.
Yeah.
They they worked. They put out projects. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was listening to Ted the Club Up today, and I'm like, structurally, I mean, we already know from the influence or whatever, but there is no Knuck If You Buck if there's no Ted the Club Up. Like, structurally, that song was put together in a similar, if not the same fashion as Ted the Club Up. All the way from Diamond and Princess's part coming in just like Gangsta Boo did, you know?
I mean, when you hear the term trap music, what does it sound like to you? Because I would tell you it's a derivative of DJ Paul and the 3-6 sound.
Well, they created crunk music, and and Lil Jon will say that. The king of crunk will tell you that he got crunk from 3-6 Mafia. They're the first person I ever heard say crunk on a record. Anyway, um,
So that's what I mean. It's like you said, Mike. You got kids everywhere.
everywhere, and yeah, I wasn't even counting this whole crunk stuff in the crunk movement. They never really hung their hat on that because, again, that was a phase that ended up turning into trap music. And really, when you look at the trap music sound, it's a derivative of DJ Paul and Juicy J's sound.
It is.
Straight up.
It is, Mike.
Not Lil
Like
Jon's sound at all. You know what I mean? And no disrespect there. And he knows that. But,
it's not disrespect, but it's like when you listen to like some of the beats that like Jeezy picks, like and stuff like that. It's like no, like that's a derivative of like 3-6 and Paul.
yeah.
Like where that shit hits. Yeah.
Man, it's going to be something that we're going to be talking about until it actually happens on December 2nd. Like I said, I'm interested to see how it's going to work. I think that one of the biggest handicaps Bone has, is production. Another one of the handicaps is just, structurally how their songs come together and how that's going to work verse for verse. And the hooks, there's an imbalance there too. In the hits. And so it really puts Bone in an interesting situation. And it's funny because Bone was always the big group where 3-6 the whole career was like the underdogs.
Well, you want to know what? And I hate to say this, it's like if you were actually look at the careers, and this is going to seem funny because style-wise it doesn't make sense, but Bone versus Goody Mob would have been a better matchup for Bone because both of their careers are kind of more gravitated towards about 2 or 3 projects and a couple of things that they did ancillary that are really, really strong. It's going to play well better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
Like,
see what you mean. Career-wise, stylistically, there's a lot of differences, but they're more similar than people may think. With the harmonizing and
you talking
having
about? I was about to say with the harmonization, 4 to 5 man team, like contributing to some other great works, but not a lot of other great works. You know what I'm saying?
I
But
don't
like,
think I don't think verses. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no. I mean, like they have some seminal stuff outside of the group albums, like Get Up, Get Out on Southern Playalistic.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They have stuff like that too, kind of like Bone does.
I don't feel like that the versus format was conducive. Huh?
And it's the same era too. Like Bone came out in '94, Goody coming out in '95, right after Outkast. You first hear Goody in '94. It's literally the same time frame.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
I don't think though the versus is really conducive for 3 to 4 plus groups. You know what I'm saying? Groups with 3, 4, 5, 6 people, just based on the format. Because the format, for people who may have forgotten, was pretty much for producers, which it was perfect for. And
Right.
then when it moved on to artists, then it's like, okay, that's cool, but solo artists. But with groups, I don't think it's conducive for anything, more than 2 groups. And, people would say the Locks and Dipset, but those are guys that got a lot of solo
Those stuff.
output
Yeah,
within their
totally.
group. So I don't really count them as just people who have that. Now, if we look at Bone, they don't have a lot outside of, the members outside of Crazy and, Busy. And El Burner did a lot of stuff too. But they don't have a lot of notable material outside of those Bone Thugs and Harmony walls.